Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we'll be starting a new series wherein we'll be building an entire website, fully responsive with maybe multiple pages if necessary. And then we'll be making it a fully professional website which you can use for any maybe professional agency, or maybe you can use it for your own need as well if you wanted to. And this is going to be fully responsive. So in this video, we'll be building this first section. Now, since it's going to be really difficult for me to cover this in one single video, so we'll be doing this in parts. So the website that we'll be building is this one. Now, if you look at the main landing section, so we have this navigation, then with a heading with frontier of talent acquisition, and then some text, and then this get started button with some social links, and then also this kind of fancy looking download button, and then the image here. So we'll be building this in today's video, and then in the next videos or the next series of videos we'll be building the rest of the stuff. And also we might add some animations, so on scrolling you might see some different animations, and also we might add a loader or so. So yeah, that's it. So let's see the one that we have built. So this is the one that I've built. So I've changed the logo from on folk to linked, and then I've removed the navigation, some of the stuff, for example these platform solutions, resources, marketplace, and about, since I do not want it to make it like since this is kind of like a SaaS product. So when you'll click onto this get started, you'll obviously get taken to that specific page where you can add your stuff, like what solutions you provide and all the different stuff. So I just wanted to have here the login and then this get started stuff. And then we have the header with images, icons, and also this paragraph with get started button, and also this fancy button which says that this is also available on iOS, and then this image. Now this is completely responsive, so if I were to shrink the size, hold on a second. Yep. So if I were to shrink the size, you can clearly see that it adjusts automatically, as you can see. So all the different media query have been added, and we'll be doing that in this video itself. So in the next video, probably we'll build all the other stuff. And then if you see, we also have this client testimonial section, which is a slider. So we'll be making it fully functional, and same for this. So report section is also a slider, so we'll also add a slider here. And then we have this fancy footer. So the source code of this will be available, so you guys can download and you guys can use it.
So I'll add the link to the Behance post from where I was inspired, and I'll add the link down in the description. So do make sure to check it out and also check the owners of the design. Thank you.
Now before getting started, I wanted to tell you guys that to build this, we'll be using a Bootstrap grid system. Now there are multiple libraries which offer the grid system, but we'll be using Bootstrap one. Now there is no specific reason. The only reason is maybe because I have been using it for quite some time, and I'm kind of comfortable using Bootstrap's one rather than using other ones. Now they're not that difficult. They're pretty simple. Now if you do not have any idea regarding what a grid system is, I'll add a link to one of my videos wherein I teach how to build a custom grid system, and I explain what a grid system is, and also we build a website using that specific grid system that we just create. And so I'll add the link to that in the description, so you guys can check that out. Now a grid system in CSS, if I were to explain you in brief, it is basically a layout technique that allows web developers, basically us, to structure the page content into grid of rows and columns. Now it helps in creating a responsive and organized layout for the website. Each row wherein can be divided into a certain number of columns, Now for Bootstrap, they have 12 columns, but for others, there can be 15, 20, and 24 maybe, and even more if there are any. So this just depends on what library you're using. So we'll be using that in this video. So it's not too complicated. And that library comes with a few other stuff, like you can also use the containers. And I think you can also use the margin and padding shorthand classes. So yeah, so we'll be using those in this video itself. So you'll learn a lot. So let's get started. So here I am in my VS Code and I have opened the folder with the name of linked. Now inside of this, I have an images folder wherein I have all the different images that we'll be needing to build this, starting from the cover background, this, and then we have image card, which we won't be needing in this video, but then later down the line we'll need this. These images are basically for these circle images. So there are two of them. And then I have an image cover, logo, and the pattern image. Okay. Now, so first let's see the structure. So we have here the nav for the navigations. Let's look at the original design. So we have the nav for the navigation. Now, as you see that we have some consistent gapping from left and also from the right if we just exclude this image. So to get this, we'll be using the container class of Bootstrap. Now, if you do not know what a container is, you can just come here. You can search container Bootstrap. And let's go here and let's go to the latest version. Let's search here container. So it will explain you that containers are fundamental building block of the Bootstrap that contain padding and align your content within a given device or viewport. Now, as you can see the different sizes of different containers. So we will be using container and then this container MD, which is for the medium devices. Now this works, so this takes 100% in the devices which have size less than 556 pixels, 100% for less than 556. So, and then for the medium devices also it takes 100%, but then for the medium devices it takes 720 pixels, and then for the large, extra large, and for extra large, so these are the width of the container, and then these are aligned at the center. So here let's add a container div and let's add a container MD. And if I were to write here lorem 100, you won't see anything since we haven't added our Bootstrap. So let's add the CDN. So Bootstrap CDN.js. Here you can download the entire Bootstrap, but it's just an overkill. So we'll just get the grid here, bootstrap grid.main.css. Now this grid comes with the containers. So you can come here and you can paste it. Let's remove this, and yeah, we have the Bootstrap grid. Now let's try to add the container and container MD lorem 100. Let's see. You'd see we have automatic gapping from left to right. And then for the icons, we'll be using remix icons. So remix icon CDN.js. Let's get the icons. Let's copy this and let's paste it here. So we have the nav, and then so we'll have a main tag which will basically wrap up the entire website, and then we'll have different sections. So this is the about section, then you have the services section, which is this, then the client section, the features section, something of this sort, and then the report section, which is this, and then you have the footer. Now the one that we'll be building in this video is this. So first let's add the navigation, which is this. Now inside of the navigation, as you see, the content are at the center, so we need a container, and let's add container MD for that. And then we have an anchor tag for this logo, and I have added the link, which is this. And then you would have an anchor tag for the login and an anchor tag with the class of btn and btn dark with get started and then the arrow icon, which is this. Now you may wonder that the fonts are really small. The reason for that is because here in the CSS I have added font size to 62.5%. Since we're kind of building it in a professional way, so we'll be using the relative units instead of the pixel values that we normally use. So now we'll be using rem units. So what this font size would do, it would make 1 rem equal to 10 pixels. So it'll be easy for us to handle the rem units. So there's that. And then, yeah. So we are done with the nav. Now this BTN and BTN dark, so if you look at the design, we have some similar buttons and we do not want to build them multiple times. So this button is same exactly as this one. The only difference maybe you'd see is with, I think there's with these two buttons. Now these have yellow background and that's the only thing that they have. The rest, they're same. So we only would have a BTN dark and BTN yellow, which would change the background color of this button. So we have the cover, which would have the heading. So we'd have a container since we want it to be at the center. Now we have the intro, which is this section. And this intro would have a gradient heading, which is this, along with the circle images. Now there are 3 circle image, so we'll have 3 circle image divs. Now these would have image inside of them, so we have 2 images, and the third one is an icon. So I'll just add the remix icon of the folder fill. Let's save and let's see. So we have this, and then we have another intro wherein we have the heading. Now this heading is this, which says acquisition, and it does not have any gradient. So the gradient one would be the one which we're specifying as gradient heading, and this is the normal black heading. And then we have intro detail wherein we have a paragraph of text, and this button is in circular shape. So we want to have a BTN circle, BTN yellow, since this has a yellow background, and these also, you'd see these are circular. The only difference is these will be black in color, so we can add BTN dark. So I'll add this. Now for the footer, we have this button and also these 3 circle icons. So we have the footer top, wherein we have a BTN dark with get started and then the arrow icon. And then we have another button which is hidden for the larger screen devices, but when you make it or you open it in smaller screens, you would have this download on iOS. This big kind of like a div, so we have a short or simple button for that. So we also would need to add that. Now this would have a BTN of yellow and then show mobile, which is responsible for making it visible only on the mobile devices, and for the large screens we'll just hide this. And then we have the share div with 3 anchor tags wherein we have 3 icons: Discord, then we have Twitter, and then we have Instagram. And then we need the CTA, which is this one. And then we'd have a div with the class of download with the content of this download mobile app, and then this app available on Apple Store, and then an anchor tag, which is this. Basically, when you click, you want to do something or navigate it to the iOS or App Store. So we have an anchor tag with the class of CTA button, and then we have a div with the rating for this, and then on App Store, and then we have a small with the Apple icon. So we'll be creating this background kind of like a square, and then we have the icon in the center. And then we have the div with the name of cover image, wherein we have the cover image, which is this. Now let's begin our styling. So in the CSS, we'd first target the body. We'd add the font family of Malish. We'd have width and min height of 100 viewport height, font size, and an overflow X of hidden. Now let's target the anchor tags. All the anchor tags that we have, we do not want them to have a text decoration, and also we want them to inherit the color of their parent. And then we target the main, we give it width and a min height, and then we target the nav. Now the navigation would have it as position fixed, as when you scroll, if you see for the smaller device as well, you can basically, now since we have less or limited content, we are unable to scroll. Let's see. So for this, if we scroll down, you'd see that this navigation kind of sticks at the top. So this is due to the position of fixed. So let's add position fixed here, and then top 0, left 0. Basically, we want it to stick at the top. And then width of 100 viewport width. Basically, this would take the entire width. Z index of 10. Basically, I want the nav to be at the top of all the different elements that we have, since we want the other elements to go underneath the nav and not on top. And then we have the background of the cover image so that it kind of blends with the background, you see. And the position of the background needs to be top, or else it won't blend in. And then we have display flex, justify content center, align items to center. And then the container that we had, we target that. Gap of 3 rem with padding, let's save. And then we target the logo. We'll give it a width, and also we'll scale it a little bit. Now the logo needs to be margin right auto, meaning that these would get pushed. Let's save. Now we're going to target the anchor tag. We'd have font weight to bold. And now let's target the cover. So here, let's add the background of the cover background that we have. As you can see, it is blending really well, but we need to add this no repeat so that it doesn't really repeat. Background size needs to be covered. Min height and also width of 100 viewport width. And a padding of top of 13, so that we have a gapping from the top. Now the cover container, we're going to have position relative, since we're going to be absolutely positioning some of the stuff inside of the container that we had for the cover, which is this. Now let's target the BTNs, or the buttons. The first button that we have, the capsule type, would have a padding top and bottom, and also left and right. We're going to give it a border radius of 3 rem. Font weight, normal, since the anchor tag here are bold, but these buttons do not really need to be bold. So we'd need to add font weight to normal. Font size of 1.2 rem. Outline and border to none, since this BTN class may be sometimes used in buttons, the actual button element. So those button elements have outline and border by default, so we do not want them to have any outline button, so we'll just remove it. And then the color needs to be white, and For the background, we can have BTN dark, which would have a dark background. Let's save. This is BTN dark. We have the same over here. So it just saves up a lot of our trouble to go and manually change it everywhere. So you can have a common class, kind of like a utility class, and apply it in different places where in the same button you need. And then you have BTN circle, width, height same, since this is going to be in circle. And then you need the border radius to be 50% with outline and border. Then you have display grid with place content to center. Font size of 2.1 rem. Color white. And then BTN yellow, the yellow color. Let's look at the circle buttons. So you see we have these buttons ready. Now let's target the intro. Let's add display flex, align items to center and a gap of 2 rem. So they're flex aligned. Now these circle images are inside of a circle images div. First, let's target the heading, the gradient one, and let's give it font size, font weight. And then we want to add a linear gradient background. Now this is going to be to right. Let's copy the colors. Now we want this yellowish color to start from 68%, meaning somewhere from here maybe. So when you save, this is what you get. Now this linear gradient is in the background, but you want it to be in the text and not in the background, basically as a color. So what you need to do is you need to add WebKit background clip to text. And then you need to add WebKit text fill color to be transparent. As now it is black, you want it to be transparent. Now let's target the heading. Same font size, same font weight. Only difference is the color would be black. Now let's target the circle images and let's give them display flex. And then the specific image would have a height and width of 5.5 rem with a border radius of 50%. Overflow to hidden, a border of 2 pixels. And then the nth child, the second image would have a translate x of 30%. If you look here, so this is kind of overlapping with the first one. So we want to have this translate x of minus 30%. Now these images need to have an object fit of cover. First, let's target the icon of the folder. Let's translate it first 70% in the x-axis, in background of this, and display grid place content to center, which would have the icon at the center. And let's increase the size, and also let's add the orangish color. Okay, now let's target the different image inside of the circle image, and let's give them width and height 100% and an object fit of cover. Now let's target the intro detail, when we have font size 1.8 rem, width of 40%, min width of 40 rem. Basically, we're kind of setting the min width to be 40 rem. So this is basically the minimum width that it needs to have. Now, for instance, if the width with 40% is less than 40 rem, then this would at least take 40 rem as its width. Margin block, basically top and bottom of 2 rem. And the color of this. And the position of relative, since this circle, BTN, would be placed absolutely. Line height of 1.5, let's save. Now let's target the circle, BTN inside of the intro detail. Let's scale it up. Let's increase the font size and set its position to absolute with right and top value. Let's save. And there you go. Now we're going to target the intro footer. We're going to have margin top of 3 rem with display flex direction to column, since we want them to stack, and align items to flex start. Gap of 2 rem, basically the gapping between the two divs inside of the intro footer. Margin bottom of 2 rem, and then the intro footer top which has this get started and also this download on iOS. We want to target that. We want to set display flex, gap of 2 rem. Let's save. And then the share that you have, we want to target that. I'm going to set display flex with gap of 1 rem. We'll have now gap between these buttons. Now let's target the cover image. We want to set its position to absolute, width to 100%, and max width and max height to this, right to 0, and top to 60%. Now we want to translate it along the y-axis and set the overflow to hidden. So we have the image of this, something like this. Now we want to need to set the object fit of this to cover. So let's target that. And so before doing that, let's add border radius and also a border of white of 5 pixels. And then the image inside of the cover, we're going to give it width and height, or just width, and then we can give the object fit to cover, and there you go. Now this button needs to be hidden on normal large screen devices or PCs and tablets. So we're going to target this show mobile class and just set display none. Now the CTA that we had, the fancy button at the center, I'm going to target that. I'm going to set its position to absolute with top and left value, and also will translate it -50%. Now the Z index needs to be 2, since this is going to be on top of this cover image. I'm going to target the paragraph. We're going to give it font size and also font weight with margin bottom, and then the span which we have, I'm going to set its display to inline block and set its font size and also margin bottom. Now the download, which basically wraps up everything, needs to have a min width and also a Z index with position of relative, reason I think for adding this is because we need to have a Z index for this download, which you'll understand just in a second. The background needs to be black and color needs to be white. The border, and now we're targeting the before pseudo selector. I'm going to set the content to empty string, and we want to have the background of the pattern, no repeat, position absolute, width and height, and also top and left value. Now you're going to want to set the background size to contain and transform rotate it 315 degrees. Now you if you hadn't set this background or this download with position relative, and if we hadn't set this Z index of 10, we wouldn't have been able to set this before just behind this CTA div. So just so that this pattern comes underneath this download, we had to have this position relative along with this Z index. Now this needs to have a Z index of -1. Even if you don't add, this would still work fine. And then we want the opacity to be 0.8. Now we're going to target the CTA button, basically this button, this entire button. So you want to have display flex with padding right of 1 rem, align items center, the gap of 2 rem with background of white. And also we're going to set some styling to the color, font size, and also font page. Now let's target the border radius and set that to 1 rem with overflow to hidden, which you'll understand just in a second. Since we're going to be targeting the rating, and we're going to give it height and width, background of yellow color, and then this display grid, place content to center. Now the color needs to be white, and then font size of 2.2 rem, position absolute. Since we have these two circles, so this one's going to be the before and this one's going to be after. So we're going to be using pseudo selectors for that. So we'll be targeting that. So we have targeted the before and after for those circles. We're going to set position absolute with height and width, this, transform, translate, and also border radius of 50%, background of black. Now we're going to target the before, we're going to position it at the top, right 0, and for the after, we're going to have top 100% and right 0. Let's save. And we have these circles aligned. Now let's target the small, which is basically the square that holds this icon. Let's set the background to red so that we can see. And height and width to 5 rem. Display grid, place content to center so that the icon is at the center. Let's change the background to black. Let's add the color to white. Let's increase the font size. And let's give a bit curve to the background. Okay. Now we want to set its margin left to auto. Now we want to need to style it for the different media screens, since for the PC it is done. So let's see the responsiveness. It looks really horrible. Now we need to style it. So now, yes. So you can click onto this responsive option, and here you can set the different screen width. First, let's add 1400. So this is fine. The only thing that we need to add here, the cover image needs to have a right of -5%. Okay. Right. Okay. Now for 1300 pixels, let's make it 1300. Here, on the cover image to be right -2% with max width of 58 rem. And then for 1200, we want to need to have the cover image with top and right and also max width of 50 rem. The intro needs to be flex wrap. And then the heading need to have a font size of 6 rem. Now we're going to have this intro detail and then this BTN circle, top -70% and right of this. Let's save. As you can see, less than 1200, and then you'd have this. More than 1200, you have this. Okay. 992 pixels. Let's target that. 992 pixels. It's this, but less than 992. Intro needs to be flex wrap reverse. Now you would have those circles at the top, and then you would have the heading. The cover image needs to have top auto, left auto. Since now we won't be positioning it absolutely, we just add position relative with margin top of 18 rem with max width of 100%. I'm going to target the CTA. We have top 80% with intro detail now, width of 100%. Now the BTN circle, this up with top minus 50%, 150% and right 30%. Let's save. And then we're going to target the footer with flex direction to row. Since this was in column, let's save. And now for 768, yeah, for this would have HTML font size of 55%. Now in the HTML, we're just reducing the font size of 55%, which would lead the value of 1 rem to decrease. So basically we're scaling the entire website's size by just changing the font size. I'm going to target the intro detail BTN circle and we'll just remove that with intro detail min width. So intro detail would have a min width of 100%. And now we're going to target the max width of 575 pixels. 575. And here, nav container needs to have a padding inline of 2 rem. I'm going to target the cover, padding inline of 2 rem. Yes. Okay. Then the cover needs to have a padding inline of 2 rem, basically gapping from left and right. And then the image will just reduce the size of our logo. The gradient font size of 5 rem. And then the cover image, let's remove it. Let's also remove the CTA. And now we need to show our in the footer, we need to show that download on iOS button. So first, let's set the flex direction to column, and then show mobile to display inline block. So yeah, there you have it. So yeah, hopefully I was able to explain you guys how to build a responsive website's landing page. And so in the next video, we'll build the other sections, and hopefully in 2 to 3 videos, we'll be able to complete the entire website, and we'll also be able to add animations. And yeah, so hopefully this video was helpful. I'll add the source code of this in the description so you guys can download and check it out.